Hello. So excited. Oh my God. Okay, hello. Welcome to, I need to make sure I'm looking at the right camera and I'm not looking at myself on the screen, looking at the camera. For anyone listening to this on podcast, like audio format, just know there is a full video version of this episode on my YouTube channel, Golden Age Streams. So that's out of the way. Welcome to the very first Overflow podcast, the Overflow Method Podcast. This framework that I'm going to be introducing today in this episode, it is literally I've been working on it. I've been incubating it for I think it first came to me at the end of 2022, has been in the incubation period for a long time. This episode is the introductory episode. This episode is called The 4-Step Framework to Building a Thriving Life Without Burnout. The purpose of this episode is to lay out the foundation, basically, of what this space is, what this podcast space is, what you can expect to see week after week in this space. But yeah, that's the agenda. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Areege. I'm very excited. The energy is very because I keep saying, it's been a long time coming. And obviously with any new launch of anything, there's a jitteriness, there's a anxiety, not because I'm worried that I can't, that this isn't good, but because I'm worried. The anxiety comes from this fear that I won't be able to do the vision justice. The energy that I'm trying to bring down, or that I'm attempting to bring down into the medium of this podcast, the teaching thread, the wisdom thread, the stream of wisdom that I'm pulling down from the ethers through the medium of this through my body, through the medium of this podcast. It's just this big energy, and the anxiety comes from being worried that I'm not going to be able to do it justice, or I'm not going to be able to communicate it well enough, or translate it well enough for you, deliver it to you well enough. But that is my own process. It's part of my process with what this podcast means to me. This podcast means a lot of different things, but specifically for my personal development journey. I mean, this is something that we'll be talking about a lot throughout these episodes, but the work that we do in the world, our passion projects, the legacies that we create, they are intrinsically tied to our self-development journey. I am going to grow so much through the creation process of this podcast. As I show up week after week after week to create this for you all, I'm also creating this for me, because week after week after week, as I continue to show up and different things start happening, I start creating different skills. I start seeing myself differently. My identity starts switching. We grow a lot through what we put out into the world. So anyway, let's get into the structure. I have a little written down. This is my little dragon notebook. One of the things that I really want to anchor in for this episode is the structured quality of it. A lot, I am free flowing and riffing kind of, but I do want to have some sort of framework so that you can trust that you're going to receive what I say you're going to receive every week, I want to be able to create that trust factor week after week after week. And so in my highest visions of this podcast, with what the intentions are of this podcast as described in the intro little thing that I recorded, that you can, whenever you want to engage with that vibe or that energy, that you can come to this podcast and engage with the energy of Overflow, with the energy of this beautiful, resourced, creative vibe, for lack of a better word. So let's talk about how this came to be. Back in 2022 or 2023, like I said, this thing came in. I was in this energy of I kept feeling depleted. Like I kept feeling like I didn't have enough energy, I didn't have enough resources. And then this idea, this energy kind of landed in the energy of overflow. And I started playing with it and I started engaging with it and I started moving, like taking steps forward to understand the energy of overflow, because I heard a lot about the energy of overflow and I heard people mention it in passing, but something about the energy of overflow, like the energy of more than enoughness, having access to more than enoughness, that really resonated with me. And I was like pulled in and I wanted to explore it. So the first few iterations of the exploration of this energy for me looked like these like small little private group chats that I created. I sent invites out to people that I thought would resonate, and I created this like group chat. At one point, there was like weekly calls that I would facilitate. There was at one point like this like resource library in the form of like a Tumblr blog with different categories, that would like it was basically like a pile, like a archive of resources to help people integrate the energy of overflow into their lives more and more. But all of that was like more of an exploration thing. This podcast is like a refined version of all that experimentation I did over the past few years. This podcast is kind of like, it has more of like a solid energy to it. It's not an experimentation. I mean, of course, we're always experimenting constantly, but this podcast is very defined on what its purpose is, what its role is, what it offers to you, what it offers to me. And that's what we're going with. So over the years, also, like I came up with making this a framework. So kind of like a method that we could follow in order to achieve that like desired dream life version of success, where not only are you experiencing success in your outer reality and you're experiencing like influx of resources, influx of great opportunities, people, like great relationships, like all of the good things that you could ever potentially receive in your reality. Not only are you receiving that success, but once it like lands in your body and once you have it, it feels good to sustain it. That initial like excitement of receiving continues in the process of having the thing. It's not like you receive the thing, like for example, you receive a bunch of money and then it gets like really overwhelming because the way that you laid out your life in order to like bring in the money, it actually wasn't sustainable for how you actually want to live your life. And so even though you're making all this money, the more time goes on, the more and more and more and more you start getting depleted in energy reserves. Like, yes, you have money, but your energy is leaking. Like you're feeling drained. You're like approaching burnout. That is like the opposite of what we are curating here, what we're creating here together. We are creating a reality of success where success, like I said in the intro, success feels as good as it looks. You have all the cool things on the outer reality, but your inner reality, how it feels in your body, how you feel when you wake up in the morning, your day-to-day, your moment-to-moment, it feels equally as beautiful and exciting and harmony, like all over harmony is the word that I'm thinking of. So that is the purpose to intro. So I identified like a 4-step framework to helping myself first and foremost achieve this. And now that I've like gotten comfortable with it within myself, I'm like ready to start talking about it and teaching others about it as well, because I have tried it over the past few months. I've been enjoying it. It's been working for me in the ways that I wanted it to work. And so here we are. Welcome to the Overflow Method Podcast. So the 4 steps, I'm going to explain the general overview of how the 4 steps work together, and then we're going to go into more in depth about each of those 4 things. So basically, the Overflow Method, the Overflow Framework, is this process of getting to that dream life success right? Where your inner success is your outer success, is your outer success is your inner success. It's all harmonized and integrated, and you feel good from the outside in, from the inside out. So if you're, no matter where you are on your journey, whether you're at the beginning and you have not experienced any sort of success or resources, you don't feel like you have enough, like whatever, you'll benefit. If you're in survival mode, you'll benefit from this podcast, but you'll also benefit from this podcast if you have achieved success and you're either like trying to balance out the rest of your life, like you have like the success that you want in certain areas of your life, but now you want success in the other areas, or you have achieved success and you're wanting to maintain the good vibes. So it kind of appeals to women at any stage. Of course, men and others can listen to this as well, but the way that I deliver this, it is specifically for women. Not that other people cannot benefit and learn stuff, but it's specifically, I'm speaking to women because a big component of this podcast is going to be around the concept of feminine energy. So, I mean, feminine energy really exists within every human being. We're a balance of feminine and masculine energies. I'm not talking about like genders. I'm talking about like the energy, like yin and yang, that concept of masculine and feminine dynamics. So we're going to be like, I don't know if we're going to be talking about it directly. I guess in some episodes we will, but there's always going to be an undercurrent of like feminine flow going on in all these episodes, because that's just something that I personally think about a lot, and how it's like very influential in how I perceive the world and perceive how to approach my day-to-day life and like my lifestyle design and everything like that. So yeah. So the 4 steps, basically I'm going to draw it out for you, and then I'll post, like in the YouTube version, you'll be able to see the, whatchamacallit. Oh no, can I not screen record on this? Okay, unfortunately, I cannot figure out how to screen record on my iPad in this moment, and I'm not going to waste too much time, trying to figure it out. So I'm just going to draw it, and then I'll just like post it right here so you can actually see it right now. So this is the idea of overflow method. Basically, think of it kind of like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you've got 4 levels. On the first level, you've got health. On the second level, you have style, personal style. On the third level, you have environment. And on the 4th level, you have legacy. So health is your body. It's how you feel in your body, physically, health and wellness. Personal style is how you look. It's what you wear. It's how you customize your avatar. Number 3 is environment. Environment is your surroundings. What do you surround yourself with? Who do you surround yourself with? This involves like relationships. This involves your home, social media, and who you follow online. Basically, the environment level is about the external inputs that come into your system. And then the 4th step is legacy. Basically, what I notice is that most of us, when we have a passion, when we feel that there's something that we are meant to share with the world, we have something to contribute with the world, we have a passion, we skip straight to level 4. We skip straight to legacy. We skip straight to trying to put our creative work out there, but we're not considering any of these bottom levels. The overflow method is going step by step by step and building up so that everything is taken care of on this entire hierarchy. Like without your body being balanced, nothing, like there's no point in doing any like personal style, environment, legacy, worrying about all of that if your health is not balanced, because it doesn't matter. Like you cannot sustain any of the higher levels if your base level is not good, if your base level is not taken care of. It's the foundational level, your health and your body and your wellness. After that, we have personal style. So personal style is how you look. Like a lot of people might be surprised that we're talking about personal style when it comes to this conversation, but personal style is important because personal style is how you express yourself. It's a first layer of self-expression. So when you get to the legacy level at level number 4, the highest one, that you're like expressing yourself, right? You're like wanting to be received. But the first layer of self-expression is how you look on your body. Like, what clothes do you wear? What's your style? Like, how do you show up in the world? How people see you in terms of how you look, that affects what they think about you. Whether we like it or not, it does. Like, people make snap judgments, oftentimes subconsciously, based on how you look. We all know this. And so if we're like disregarding all of that, we're like, for example, we're like wearing hoodies and sweatpants all day, every day, and then we're in the working on our legacy layer, and we want people to see us as professionals in our field, or we want people to take us seriously, but we're wearing sweatpants and stuff. How does that balance out? You know what I'm trying to say? How does that make sense? So that's a second layer. Third layer is environment. Like, once you have your own system, like your health and your appearance, and like you're feeling good within yourself, then we have the environment. Who do you surround yourself with? Do you surround yourself with mess? If you're around chaos, like, who are the people that are around you? Do you have people who have bad vibes? Like, do you have people who drain you? Do you have people who fill you up? Like, that's super important. And like, once you get through and balance all of these layers, that's when you can really get to working on your legacy and sustain it. One of the main words here in the Overflow method is sustainability. Not only do we want success, and not only do we want it to feel good fully, we want this reality to be, this like dream reality to be stabilized. We want this to be sustainable. I tried to launch a podcast, and I tried to launch a business and stuff back in 2020, and I went straight to the legacy section, and I poured so many hours into that, so much effort, disregarding the bottom layers, especially my health and wellness part. Like, I wasn't feeding myself properly, wasn't eating enough, did not have the nutrition that I needed. What ended up happening was that I easily burnt out because I wasn't taking care of the bottom layers. And so even if I was making any progress on the legacy level, or if I was able to like magnetize any opportunities towards me, I couldn't hold them. If I could hold them, like, I couldn't hold the responsibility, I couldn't hold the consistency required to take the action to sustain that level of success. When we're asking for more, we get more. Like, more is more. And part of the overflow energy, if you think about it, it's more than enough. Like, think about the visual of an overflowing cup. It's more than enough. Like, it can get overwhelming. Like, actually think about like a glass being, or a mug or something being poured with water. It's like, if you don't have something to catch the excess water, if you don't have a system in place that you're maintaining to catch the excess water, you're going to end up with a mess. There's going to be like water everywhere. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So like, overflow, we all want more than enough. We want not just like what we need, but we want more than enough. Once you get that energy, to have systems in place where you're able to manage it and do something with that. Because if you're all holding it all in your system and you're overflowing, you're just gonna feel like energy overload. You need, and like, part of the reason we want more than enoughness is so that we can pour out into others, right? And that's also like the idea of overflow energy, is like, it's like this circular type of relationship or like movement of energy. So when you pour into yourself, like when you focus on health and wellness and personal style and environment, and you like really build yourself up, you have so much energy built up within you that is like fully self-sourced because you're giving it to yourself. You end up with a full cup, and you cannot help but pour outwards and like share that goodness with the world. Like, this is where I really want us to be creating our legacies from. This is where I really want us to be building our legacies from, is from this, like, I want to create this in the world, not because I'm trying to get something out of it, or I'm like desperate for something and I need to like source something. Like, no, it's because I literally am so full of like good energy. I need to give it to others. I need to share it because I don't need all of it. Like, I can't help but share this excitement, share this joy with the world, share this bliss with the world. And imagine the energy, imagine what your work would look like if you were coming from that foundational energy versus from the energy that most people create their stuff from, which is from this like, I need something, like I need money, so I'm going to build this thing so that I can like extract money from the world. It's a way to do it. It's a way to create. You can do that. It's open to you. It's open to all of us. We can all create from that space. But think of what I'm talking about. What if you did it from a way, like you're not creating things in the world to extract something from the world. You're creating things in the world because you just can't help it. Like you just want, that's just genuinely your desire. Like there's nothing that you would be rather doing. It's like what this does too is when you do create from that place, you're putting out like genuine, like you're putting out like genuine value into the world. Like you're not trying to hook anything or like grab anything. You're genuinely just putting energy into the world, right? You're putting value out into the world. What happens when you put value out into the world? Think of the concept of karma. What you put out comes back to you. It's like a law of the universe. So when you're putting out this like extractive energy and you're creating in order to bring things into your life, like capture things into your life, and you're in this like extracting energy, guess what quality of energy is going to come back to you? Guess what you're going to feel like? You're going to feel extracted from yourself, because what you put out is what you get back. But if you're pouring out from overflow, you're pouring out because you can't help it. You just feel so good. That's all you want to do is help others, put value out into the world, create for the joys of it, create for the goodness that it creates in the world, the healing ripple effects that it like, the healing that it ripples out into the world, the bliss and the joy, like all the good things, all of it, all of the good things. I'm like running out of words in this moment. What happens when you put that into the world? What do you think you're going to get back? So basically the overflow method is you're filling up your own cup, you're pouring outwards because you just can't help but pour outwards because you're so full. And then naturally, because of the law of the universe, what you put out is what you get back. So whatever you're putting out, it's going to come back to you in the form of this energy type that matches that. I keep using the word energy, but like I'm gonna have to like sit down and figure out some good synonyms. But yeah, just like this like circular thing where what you put out, it's like you're putting out genuine value into the world without trying to extract anything. That genuine value is going to come back to you in a way that makes sense for you at wherever you are in your life. And that's where the overflow and the abundance and the resources and the happiness and the joy and the bliss and the feel-good success, the harmonized success, that's how it works. This is what I've identified, and this is what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about in this podcast, episode by episode by episode. We're going to get to see how this podcast space evolves, but that's a general core theme that we are going to be engaging with week after week after week. Let me just take a breath. That was exciting. But do you see, it's like this whole visual, like, it's just so good. There's also like that's something that we'll also be talking about, is that there's a non-linear way in which the energy that you put out comes back to you. With the extractive energy output, like creating our legacies from an extractive place because we want to like extract something from reality, there's a quality of, there's like a linearness to that. It's like, I do this, I get this back. Like I put this course out there and I get this much money back for this course, and like that's success. In this model, from what I have experienced and from other people that are operating in this paradigm, what I've seen being experienced is there's a multidimensional value movement or energy movement, value movement. Like the way that the value you put out comes back to you, it's through often non-linear ways. But you very quickly train yourself to realize that it all doesn't matter. Like you might put out a video, for example, that you just put out for free because you just that's what you were guided to do from the inside out. Like you weren't wanting to, like me with this podcast, right? I'm not getting anything. I don't know what I'm going to receive from me putting my energy out in this way. I'm just excited to be putting this energy out because, like I said, I'm just like, there's literally nothing that I would rather be doing right now. I don't currently get paid for my content. I have like a few cents through AdSense, but it's like nothing significant. I don't know how the value that I'm putting out right now is going to return back to me. But because of my experiences from the past, I trust that it's going to get back to me. I am going to be resourced. I am going to receive this value back in some way, shape, or form through any number of different types of blessings, forms of blessings. Like, you know that concept, like it's all God, or like when you're born religious or you're into spirituality or something, it's like this idea that God is everywhere and everything. It's kind of like that. It's like, or like God will show up to you in different faces in different places. Like it's like the form, it shape shifts. It's the same thing. It's like the way that the value comes back to me, it shape shifts based on exactly what I need in that moment. So that's kind of an introduction to this paradigm of living. And obviously, as we go episode by episode by episode, week after week after week, we'll be able to dive into this more and speak more in depth onto various like nuances and things like that. I also am envisioning having on guests to get alternate perspective, like alternate experiential perspectives of this paradigm, so that you're not just getting like my personal experiences of how this energy works in my life, or how I personally experience this paradigm of operating and creating, but I want to bring on people who are different than me, who also are existing in this paradigm, but doing things in their own way and it's showing up in their own way. So I want some diversity and like variability there as well. So yeah, now for like the rest of this episode, I just want to like briefly go over each of the 4 steps, and then just like talk about it a little bit more in depth. In the future, I see that I am going to have like designated, like every episode is going to be, think of each of these 4 steps, health, style, environment, legacy, as like a content pillar. They're going to be like the pillars of what I speak about. So every episode is going to touch at least one of these pillars. And we're going to go at different levels of depth into each of these pillars. So, but yeah, like just keep in mind that the best way to do it, at least from my experience, is to go from the bottom up, like in that triangle photo. Oh, also, like something that I'm going to be launching soon. You have to look at the description of this podcast to see whether I have a link up yet or not, or if it's still coming soon. But I'm going to be launching coaching programs to basically like take the teachings that I speak about in these podcast episodes and actually like create coaching programs so that I can individually help people apply these teachings to their individual personal lives. So if you're interested in that, check out the description. If it still says coming soon, give it a few days, give it a few weeks while I get to the place where I can like pour energy into that. Because like I said, like it's a buildup, right? Like you have to stabilize things in order to like create the thing. So I have currently, from this moment, I need to like stabilize a few things before I can like commit to creating and sustaining like coaching offerings. But just check the description if you're interested. But anyway, so we're going to talk about it in that context. Like if someone came up to me and they were like starting from scratch, like they're like, I don't know what to do. Like I want to engage with this. I have no idea how to. What I would do is I'd be like, okay, the pyramid, think of the pyramid: health, style, environment, legacy. Let's start with the health level. Let's look at your diet. Let's look at the food that you're eating. Let's look at your movement practices. Let's look at the basics. Let's see if you have any, let's work through to see if you have any nutritional deficiencies. We're going to strengthen your body, because your body is what holds the energy that you're, okay, so the way that I think of creation, the ideas, where do they come from? Have you ever thought about that? Like when you have an idea for a creative thing, where does it come from? It just pops out of nowhere. It drops in. People refer it to as a download. Like it comes from the ethers. Like in this book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, who is the same author that wrote Eat, Pray, Love. This was a while ago, so I might be not fully like paraphrasing correctly, but from what I remember from that book, she gave this like beautiful like imagery and like described creative ideas as their own entities. Creative ideas are their own like they're their own individuals. Okay, they exist in the ethereal realms and they have a goal. Just like we have goals, they have goals. And they want to be manifest into the 3D realm, which is the realm that we exist in. So they like zip around in the ethereal realms looking for people who are in the physical realm, like me, like you, who can bring them through into the world. And so in order for you to be a match for a creative idea, in order for one of these like creative ideas to be zipping around and they see you, in order for them to decide that you're the person that they want to come through, they want you to birth them through into your reality. This is why also this is like specifically speaking to women, because women have an innate natural skill of birthing things. So a lot of like art, how we speak and how I experience things, it comes from that thing. Like maybe eventually we can talk about the difference between like how men create and how women create, but we're not worrying about that right now. But that like, because like the way that like women birth like actual human beings into reality, it's the same way that we birth ideas, these like not like these conceptual entities into the world. And in order for a creative idea to look at you and think that you're a good match for them, to birth them, to choose you as their creatrix, you have to be able to do it. Like at the very least, your body needs to be strong enough to handle the energy coming through. Like I was talking about at the beginning of this episode, I had anxiety because I felt the energy of the overflow method as a idea, and I was anxious that I wouldn't be able to bring it through and do it justice. So there's like, if you're energetically sensitive, you'll also feel it like this energy, it's like running through my body right now. And if I am not strengthened in my physical vessel, if I didn't eat earlier today, if I didn't drink enough water today, if I haven't been working out, I honestly would not be able to bring this through and commit to bringing this through, because even if I was able to pull out one episode, I would get so depleted because my body isn't strengthened that maybe next week I wouldn't be able to hold the consistency that I require in order to put out consistent value into the world. Like, what's the point of me creating this podcast if I can only post one video, one episode, and then maybe like another episode like 3 weeks from now if I feel like it? Like, you as the audience member, how is that helpful to you? Like, how is that like, what's the point? You know, like if I'm inconsistent, there's no reason for you to come back to this, because there's like a lack of a trust factor there. There's like, when it comes to our legacy and our creative work, we need to have some sort of consistency with it, because otherwise it's like, you get it. You get what I'm trying to say, right? Like, there's no point of me. It's like the energy dwindles. Like, the energy like dwindles out and fades. Like, if I'm like really hyped about this episode right now, and then I'm like not strengthening my body, and I can't hold the energy in my physical body because it's literally like I don't have the actual physical strength, then I can't sustain the podcast. And so like, if I make one episode now and then like one episode in like 6 months, it's like I can't grow anything. Like, I can't scale anything. The community is not building. Like, there is no momentum building. Like, I can't build to the level of success and visibility that I desire, because I'm not able to put out my value in a way that creates trust and what's the word? It like, people can like rely on it, right? Like, you guys know what I'm trying to say, right? So yeah, that's why health, like how you feel, is so important. That's why it's a base level, because without your body being good, nothing is going to be sustainable. Even if you can hold down the fort for like a few days, weeks, months, even years, you're gonna end up in burnout. And most people are in that phase, either in burnout or getting very close to it. Step 2, personal style, how you look. This is going to be, distinct episodes. How you look is, it's your first layer of expressing your essence out into the world. Anything that you create in the world, your legacy, it's you expressing your essence out into the world through some sort of creative medium, through your creative projects, etc. But the first layer, like I was saying earlier, it's how you look. It's like the way that you present yourself. It's your first opportunity to show the world who you are. Like show the world, like give the world a like in physicality, give the world like a taste of your essence. So when they look at you, they can see your power, they can identify and recognize your power immediately. And the more that you refine your personal style, and the more that you allow it, how you dress, how you look, how you customize your avatar as if we were in a video game, the more you work on that, the more you reflect your inner self, the better you feel out into the world, the less you're like expressing based on like what you think it, I don't know, like there's this whole journey with personal style too, because a lot of people, even some people who are like dressed really well and look really good, sometimes they're dressing in a way that they think is what other people want. They're dressing for others, not for themselves. And then sometimes people just haven't developed it at all. And so they're just like kind of like not even putting any intentional thought into how they look. They're just like putting on whatever clothes is around. And that like all of this like dilutes the way that people perceive your power out in the world. When confidence is like huge in this pillar as well, like when you dress in a way that when you look in the mirror, you're like, oh my God, like this feels like me. Like I love this. Because a lot of like what feels like you is just stuff, it's linked to what you like. So when you look in the mirror and you like genuinely like how you've curated your outfit, like what you look like, you walk differently in the world, you show up differently. It affects every other layer. Like for example, if you're think of like going into a job interview, or think about like going into a meeting where you're like pitching your product, or you're selling your product, or you're like whatever, like you're like presenting your creative project, or you're like the value that you're putting out into the world, you're trying to communicate that value to someone else. Do you think that you're going to have a better outcome if you really put intentionality into how you've dressed that day? When you looked in the mirror, you're like, oh my God, I love the vibe I'm putting out right now. Like, I feel so confident. I feel like me. Like, I feel like this just like perfectly depicts like who I am, like me with my red nails. Like, I love when I see my nails are done. Like, I just feel so much better, so much confident. That fills up your cup. And then when you're in that legacy layer mode and you're like selling your thing, or like selling your value, or whatever, like communicating your value to someone else, you show up more confidently. And that leads to a better outcome, because the energy is contagious. Like if you're excited about yourself and if you're excited about your work, so other people are going to be as well. So that's why it's important what you look like, and spending time to intentionally curate that. I will have episodes specifically on curating your personal style coming soon at some point. So that's going to be a thing. Step number 3, environment. Relationships. Relationships are huge. This is like the level where we talk about boundary setting, where we talk about like dissolving any energy of obligation, like not doing things for people because you feel obligated, like removing any sort of draining forces from your environment, whether it's like through relationships, or this is also the level where we talk about, or the pillar where we talk about like home care, you know, like the importance of having a nice, calm, inviting home, bedroom, like kitchen, like not having mess and chaos everywhere. Because guess what? That mess and chaos that you see reflected out externally in your immediate surroundings, that's going to affect how it's going to dilute your power and how your power expresses out into the world. Because it's like, if you see chaos all around you, you're going to feel chaos inside. And so there's also the level where we talk about like home care, like rituals, and how to make cleaning and like things like that fun, and how to streamline those processes. And with relationships, it's like also like not only like cutting out people who are draining, but how to find people that are life-giving and like what to do in that middle period when you've like let go of relationships, but like you don't have the new ones coming in yet. So how do you deal with that solitude? Like the relationship talk is all in this environment section. Like also social media, like I was saying earlier. Luna, she's talking. What I was saying earlier, like social media, what kind of content do you consume? What kind of media do you consume? Luna, stop crying. This all is relevant because your environment, like what you surround yourself with, that is directly impacting your thoughts. That's directly impacting how you perceive the world. So if you can like, depending on like what's actually in your control, sometimes there's a lot of things about our environment that we can't control unless we get to a certain stage of our life, and then we have the power and the responsibility. We've like held the responsibility, and therefore we have the power to like make those external changes. Depending on where you are and like what is in your control, what can you do to harmonize the situation in your environment? That's what we've been talking about in step 3 pillar. And then in step 4, it's finally the legacy part. It's finally about your work in the world, like sharing your passion into the world. We're going to be talking about creativity. We're going to be talking about money. Huge topic. There's going to be a huge topic in this podcast because money is so important. And a lot of people, like there's a lot that we have to iron out with money because a lot of people have like a wonky relationship with money, and that shouldn't be the case because money is a neutral entity, and the more money there is in the hands of good people, in the hands of people who are like connected to their spirit, to their soul path, and are desiring, have like the best intentions for the world and desire to like put out genuine goodness and value into the world, we need more money in the hands of those types of, we need more money in the hands of people like you. So we're going to be talking about money a lot and like ironing out things and that, but yeah, legacy is basically all about like your creative work, the process of your creativity, as well as like business talk and like how to actually not only create the thing, but also like market the thing. So that's going to be, but again, like notice how that's that's the topmost layer. Like we have to go through the other stuff. So yeah, in reality, it's not a linear process, as you know. Oftentimes we're working on multiple layers at one time, but it's more like I want to give this to you because it's more of like a general way to think about things. It's like even in my day-to-day, right? I hit all of those layers before I get to the work stuff. Like me recording this podcast, it's like later in the day today. It's like 3:16. I woke up at 8:30 a.m. From now until then, like before I started work, I made sure I ate enough today. You know, I made sure I did my workout today. I made sure I got dressed and looked a way that I am excited to look like. Like I dressed up, I did my makeup, like I made myself feel confident. I slightly tidied up my environment. Like I did like a personal routine, like I did a morning routine that was kind of in depth this morning because I really wanted like where I did morning pages and like I wrote like did a journal thing. I like pulled some cards. Like I really made sure that before I showed up to recording this and putting my energy out in this way that my cup was full. And only once it was full, I'm here recording this thing for us, for you and for me. So yes. So that is it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Like I was saying, these are going to be posted every week. I'm going to be showing up every week. This is a big priority for me. 2 priorities in my life right now, my herbal study and this podcast, and like putting my wisdom out into the world through social media. So I'm going to be showing up every week. The only time I won't be showing up every week is you'll know about that, and it'll usually be because I need like a vacation, like a break, like a week break or something. But I doubt, like I feel like that will only happen if I'm going on like a trip or something and I just want to like fully disconnect and rejuvenate and like go inward. But again, like it'll all make sense. That makes sense. Like you'll know if I'm taking a break, and you'll know exactly why I'm taking a break, and it'll reflect back to the concept of this Like even me taking a break, having a weekly posting schedule and being like, oh, like I'm not going to be posting this week because I'm rejuvenating. That is part of the teaching here, right? It's like showing you that it's okay to take care of yourself. Actually, it's required to take care of yourself. So in order to show up in service to the world. So yes, that is what I am going to leave you on today. Thank you so much for listening. If you're interested in coaching, check out my description to see if I've put anything out there. If not, wait a few weeks and check again. But yeah, thank you for being here. This is very exciting. Many years in the making, very celebratory energy right now as I like launch this and put this out into the world. My birthday was also a few days ago, so everything's like aligned. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for being here. I love you. Bye.